Welcome to the final traverse in my 204 journey across the Sahyadris. Today we'll be looking at some 30 land forts spread across the Satara region. The first ports we'll take a look at the first 10 forts shown over here, starting north of Satara with Subban Mangal, Chandan Vandan, a twin fort, Ain Kiatara, Sajan Ghat, Gunand Ghat, Date Ghat, Vasant Ghat, Sadashiv Ghat, Machindra Ghat, and finally Vilas Ghat in this first series. Here you can see a map of the spread of the forts. As you can see, there's quite a bit of travel distance to be covered between each of these land forts, even though the height of the forts is much less as those built in the center of the majestic Sahyadris. The forts are spread out between Satara on the north and Islampur and Kolhapur on the southern side. We'll start off at Subban Mangal. Shirwal lies on the banks of the river Nira. It is a village located at a strategic location between Satara and Pune. Shirwal has a small fort named Subban Mangal. This fort is important from a historical point of view, as this was the first open battle between Chhatrapati Shivaji's men and Adil Shani was fought over here. Very little remains of Subban Mangal, just one fortified pillar here with a small temple which is built on the right side. Otherwise it's completely overgrown by nature. No other fortified constructions or buildings to be seen. Then next is Chandan Vandan, which is a twin fort. According to evidence from the manuscripts found written on copper plates, the forts were built by King Bhuj II of the Shilahar dynasty in 1191-92. The first fort captured by Chhatrapati Shivaji is Chandan after he took the oath as Raireshwar. So we'll be climbing the forts from the southeast here along going towards the saddle, and from there climbing towards the left of Chandan Ghat and the right of Vandan Ghat. Here is Chandan. Photos here taken from the net as the temporary phone I was using after my OnePlus 7 Pro died became unusable after some time, and I had to get a new phone in Satara. This photo is obviously taken during the monsoon, not during the dry months of December, which you have been seeing in my photos. On the way to Chandan, you have a pretty proper staircase, and from actually the road section directly, you can climb up here. Quite a few people go there up to the temple. There is a Shiva temple and also a mosque, I believe. On the way to the top, you find two big rock-built pillars that give entry to the top upper section of the hill, where you can find this Shiva temple. And not shown in the photos here, so I also believe there was some mosque on top of this hill. Vandan is in worse condition actually. On Vandan you find more structures of entry gates and fortified walls, but unfortunately is in a pretty pathetic condition. Needs a little bit of restoration work to restore these ancient remains. Here you can see the entrance to the bastions and main gate, which are completely overwhelmed by loose boulders. And then on top of Vandan we find here an old building, as well as a small lake here with another construction on top. Next on the list we go to Satara to pick up a new phone after my temp Galaxy S4 Mini gave up on me, and loaded with a 7T this time I proceed my journey towards Ain Kiatara. Meaning the impregnable star, is a fort on one of the 7 mountains surrounding the city of Satara. It is a 16th century fort where several pivotal moments in Maratha history took place. After the death of Shivaji Maharaj, Aurangzeb conquered Satara fort, which was later won by Parshuram Pradiniti in 1706. Here we can see the majestic entrance gate with two big bastions of Satara. Quite a few people climb up to this fort given its close proximity to the big city of Satara. Here an inner view of this entrance gate, beautiful constructed, a bit similar to the temple architecture at the base of Mueller Fort. You can see some beautiful rock cut in scriptures here on the both sides of the entrance. And then proceeding pretty close by, we have Sajangat, meaning Fort of the Good People. Is a fort located near the city of Satara also. It is a final resting place of the Saint Ramdas in the 18th century. His teachings and words, written in books such as Dasbodh, are read and followed by many people even today in the state of Maharashtra. And Sajangat is a popular place of pilgrimage. So going up this fort is pretty easy as there is a road all the way up, and you get beautiful views on the nearby dam on the northwest. Here we have the entrance gate to the top section of the fort. Nice modern staircase had been built to for the inflow of pilgrims. Here you can again see a beautiful interior architecture of the entrance gate, ceiling. And then as we enter on top, we see a small temple here dedicated to Ramdas. Many portraits are there. And pilgrims, the fort on top is pretty large, as you can see. Find a big lake, quite a bit of vegetation, and a nice modernized path that goes around the hill, which gives amazing views on the nearby dam and Sahyadris. Voila, on the way, of course, it's time to refill the energy with some fresh sugarcane. Remember that we are in the sugar belt here. Gunwangat is a fort located 10 km west to southwest of Patan village in the Satara district. Dadgat is to the west-northwest of the Konya river, and the Helwan Wak Patan road passed through both of the forts. The fort was used as a military base during the Peshwa rule in the 18th century. The fort must have been used for surveillance before that. The fort was handed over to the British during the Maratha War of 1818. I reached the base of this specific fort in the evening, settled down in a nice temple at the base of the hill, and then one of the neighbors made sure I'm alright there, even invited into his home, but I preferred some peaceful sleep in the temple, and before climbing up to the fort in the morning, called me for some nice fresh tea. Voila. The fort is located on a pretty barren hill. Initially you kind of proceed to the saddle where it's a little steep and difficult to get up, so you have to go a little bit on the side to find a very small path here, you can see in the photo, that leads to the upper section of the hill. And here finally we see a view of the, actually in this case, burnt grasses on top of the hill. You can see a few reservoirs on top and a trail that people have been walking up. So a pretty small area on top with not much of fortifications, overlooking the valley in between opposite hills. Next is Deitgat Fort, a small fort located 75 kilometers south of Satara. The Pantankars were the Deshmukhs under the Marathas of the whole surrounding district and had charge of Deitgat Fort. The fort was under control of the Maratha dynasty before the fort was taken into control by Captain Grant in May 1818. Here we can see the entrance. We mostly climbed the fort through a kind of a dirt track and a lonely home at the base of a hill from the back. But this front view here is probably the original entry towards the fort. From here you get views steep on the steep valley below. At the entrance of the fort you get two rock-cut statues of Ganapati and the monkey god. And then very unique on this fort, similar to Kamalghat actually, the only two forts where I've seen this kind of massive construction is somewhat 20-30 meter deep rock-cut reservoir here to collect rainwater on top of this otherwise barren hill. Here you can see the the depth of actually the water reservoir below the hill. Essential, of course, drinking water for the troops in case the force gets surrounded. Here a view from the bottom of the reservoirs up. Must have taken months and months to cut through this hard basalt rock and make this kind of construction. Voila, after Geit, I pick up a couple of kids from the local village on their way to school and proceed to the next stop being Vasantgat, built by the Shilahar King Boj. Shivaji Maharaj conquered it in 1659. Later, Rajaram Maharaj stayed for some time on this fort when he returned from Jinji near Tamil Nadu. Aurangzeb captured this fort in 1700 and named it Kili da Fateh. The Marathas got the fort back in 1706. Again, this fort I reached towards the end of the day. The night was setting in, but there's a pretty nice staircase, at least at the base of the hill, and electrified wiring goes up to a little temple on top with lights here. So it was pretty easy to get up. By the time I reach up, the night falls. Here you can see the final section of these stairs leading to the entrance of the top of the fort. In the plains, a couple of night-lit villages. On the top then, a very peaceful, nobody seems to be there, just a deserted place. Very peaceful temple with electrical support. Nice breeze on top and peaceful place. So for a moment I doubted whether I should spend the night here, but then being quite hungry after climbing again some 8 to 10 forts that day, I decided to head down and catch some dinner before settling for the night. Here we can see the rocket statue inside the main area of the temple. Voila. So then, as usual, on the end of the day, another night ride to a bigger town where we can find some food to replenish the lost calories of the day. Next on the list is Sadashivgat, fort at a distance of 6 kilometers from Kargat in Satara district. The hill of Sadashivgat came under control of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj after the assassination of Afzal Khan in 1659. Shivaji Maharaj built Sadashivgat to keep an eye on Kargat and to control the Surligat from Karat to Paluzvita. At the base of Sadashivgat, I made a couple of enthusiastic guys here, Sanket and Co. from Wata Sahyadri, a very enthusiastic outdoor group. The way up to the fort is along a nice modern fixed staircase here. Top of the hill you don't find much, just a bit of a barren hill with as usual a reservoir and a small temple. So very soon we proceed next with a couple of more friends running down.
We're running down from the temple to Kargat. We have a couple of friends here on the way from the group. Yeah. So we are now running for a nice refreshing dip in the river on the way to Mashindragat. See you guys soon.
Okay, and then finally we take a dip at the confluence of the Konya and Krishna rivers. After traveling quite some distance from Mahabaleshwar, the rivers are still surprisingly clear here, so not much human pollution at this point at least. Voila, let's take a dip together.
We are at the intersection of the Krishna river there coming from Mahabaleshwar and the Koina river coming from that side, merging into one big river on the other side here, which is flowing ultimately all the way through Kolhapur and Bangalore, I believe.
Yes.
The water is surprisingly clean, very refreshing and very chill in the month of December. So a wonderful place to take a dip as we proceed further to Mashindragat. See you guys later.
Voila, before we leave Karat, we still pay a visit to a majestic ancient well here, which once upon a time provided water to the entire community in Karat. Here we can see the height of the well. During the monsoon, the water actually comes to the place where I'm standing. Now in the month of December, the water is actually completely gone below the base of the well. Here another top view on the huge water reservoir built in this town. Okay, proceeding next to Mashindragat later in the afternoon, built by Shivaji Maharaj in 1676. Though it is called a fort, there are no such fortification or bastions to be seen on the fort, except for a few cannons and rocket cisterns. The fort was garrisoned by the Pratinidhi till it was taken by Bapu Gokhale of the Peshwas in 1810. On the way we see a lot of farmers carrying their produce with big oxes towards the sugarcane factories. Less actually motorized transport here, a lot of manual labor and manual transportation still in the sugar belt. Voila, on top I meet a good friend Tushar, also someone who has been following my journey online for a while, and we meet each other at the right place and time at the top of Mashindragat. Here we find the newly built or newly reconstructed temple on top of the fort with a gentleman playing an ancient instrument. As per Tushar, there should be a tunnel there leading from the top of the hill to the base, a kind of an ancient escape tunnel. At one place of the hilltop we have a nice portico here from where we can see the sun setting down on the plains behind. In between there is Buikot. Kila means a fort that is built on a flat land and not on any mountain. Bui means land in Marathi and Kot means Kila or fort. Most forts during Shivaji Maharaj era were built on top of mountains. However, certain forts were also built on flat land, as we see in many places around Satara and Kolhapur. This particular fort I'm skipping, as there's, according to Tushar, is not much to be seen inside the town itself. So we proceed next to Vilasgat, a fort near Yedi Nipani village in the Sangli district, known by the name of Mallikarjun, as there is a temple of Lord Mallikarjun. There are not any major structures visible on the fort. To use the main purpose of the fort must have been for watchkeeping purpose. Again, we keep the sugar levels high as the sun also sets high above us, and have some refreshing sugarcane juice here on the many shops along the way. Proceeding further by bike to the base of Vilasgat, we park the vehicle and again climb up through a modernized concrete staircase to the top, where we find a beautiful rock cut, ancient looking kind of temple built inside kind of a cave, where we find a big Shiva Linga. Beautiful place, very peaceful at the end of the day again, with beautiful views on the surrounding plains. Voila, this was the first part of the 30 land forts around Satara and Kolhapur. Stay tuned for two more parts, to finish the Sahyadri web series. As usual, don't forget to check my blog ultrajourneys.org, where you can find lots of info about the Sahyadris, the Himalayas, Vietnam, and many other places where I ran my past ultra journeys. See you guys tomorrow for the second part.